Let's do it. It's Wednesday. See, I know when this stuff's gonna drop, everyone. It's Wednesday, and you know what Wednesday's for? Okay, full disclosure. I've not figured out how to actually pronounce the name of this particular bourbon yet. It is a Texas-based distillery, so I think it's Baljones or balconies, but that just sounds so stupid and like, you know, it has to be balcones. Except not Italian. I don't know why I'm doing an Italian accent. But anyway, it's made with blue corn. Super cool, right? I was like, man, I want to try that because apparently it adds a little bit of sweetness to the bourbon and everything. And indeed, it does. It's tasty. It's totally unique. It's its own thing. But I really was impressed with it. So there's that a little pro-ish tip on some bourbon for you today. Today's video is on... We're going to kind of talk about real estate investment today. And really it's going to be about, okay, well, when and how is the right, primarily like, when's the right time? How do you know it's the right time to buy an investment property? Okay, so to chat a little bit about this, there's really two types of investment properties, right? If we just break this down into 101 stuff. And by the way, I do not claim to be a real estate investing expert at all. But at the same time, at least when it comes to the rental side of it, it's not really that complicated, right? Because like numbers are numbers and it's pretty easy to figure some of this stuff out. So there's two sides of the investment world, which would be either flipping properties, right? Buying something that needs some work. You attempt to buy it low, although right now you're probably just gonna be buying it for what it's worth. Put some money into it, TLC, and then sell it for a profit, right? So whatever, I bought a property at 200 grand, I put 20 grand into it and I sold it at 240. So I walk away with 20 G's. Simple formula, right? In principle. The other one is rental properties, right? So these would be, you know, buy and hold, cash flow oriented properties. The point of this thing is not to flip it, although you probably will flip it down the road, but it's really to, excuse me there, everyone, you know, and you buy this thing and at least get it to an appropriate place of rentability, if you will, and then you get a tenant in there. And, you know, ideally, cool, whatever, your monthly mortgage payment is $1,200 a month and you're renting it out for $1,500. So you got $300 in cash flow a month. Cool. So these are the two scenarios. I'm going to really focus on rental properties. And this video sort of came up because we had someone email us in. We had a call with them recently, and it doesn't matter who, where, any of that kind of stuff. But I'm going to kind of use it as a little bit of a case study because it was a case of me, you know, or us really. I mean, hell, Heidi, I made Heidi be the bad cop. She works the real estate side of the business with me. And I was just like, this, you know, we looked at the numbers and we were like, well, this doesn't make sense. You should not be buying a rental property right now. Like, you know, keep in mind, anytime a real estate agent, guys, I mean, think about this logically. Anytime someone in my position who makes money from selling you real estate tells you, don't do this, I'm voluntarily not making money because it is not in your best interest to do this, you can believe that advice, right? Wouldn't it make sense, like logical sense, that that's honest, real deal advice? I'm saying, I will not get paid. I'm volunteering to not get paid versus get paid but put you in a bad situation. You should believe that advice, guys, okay? And so really there's a couple of kind of routes to go about the rental property thing. One would be the traditional route, which is say, cool, I live in this home now. I need to save up 20% to go buy a rental property. Because look, guys, the reality is if you buy a property to rent out, right, that's the intent. That is the primary intent of it. I'm buying this to rent it out. I'm not planning to live in it. Any bank, I mean, at least all the ones that I know, they're going to ask for a 20% down payment. I've heard sometimes it's like 22 or something weird, but like just plan on 20%. Okay, that's sort of the most common number here. So, hey, look, you're buying a property that with the intent of renting it out, cool. You got to throw down 20%. So stay in your house that you live in, save up some cash, whatever. 20%, that's a chunk of cash. I don't know. Let's say it's a $300,000 house. Well, that's 60 G's, not factoring in some closing costs of whatever, 5 grand. So, hey, now we're at 65 grand, not factoring in if there's any repairs or sort of things that I need to get updated in order to rent it out. So I could be 65 to, I don't know, maybe $80,000 all in once I'm in, to then have a cash flowing property that pays me, you know, I don't know, $200, $300, $400 a month, you know, whatever your particular scenario is. That would be one. The second way that I've seen some people do this, and don't really consider this advice, because I kind of live in this weird industry that has all kinds of regulations. So I'm always a little leery of giving advice, because I'm like, man, there's so many regulations and shit. I never know if you know, if I'm saying something that's like stupid and I'm not supposed to say. So this is not advice, but I do know of people that do this, which is they'll buy this house, right? I'm buying this house to live in. Right? That's my purpose. I'm buying this house to live in. And because of that, they can do a very low down payment of, let's just say, 3, 4, 5%, something like that, right? So I'm going to buy this house with, let's just say, 3% down. So that $300,000 house now would be $9,000 on your down payment. And I'm going to live in this house for the next couple years, make it my primary residence for the next couple years, and then I'm going to move out of it. But instead of selling it, I'm going to rent it out to someone, and then I'm going to go buy another primary residence, and I'm going to put another 3, 4, 5% down, right? And they will sort of rinse and repeat that formula every couple of years. So, hey, in theory, over the course of a decade, it's like, dude, I got 5 properties now, which, hey, good on you. Like, you got 5 properties to your name. Like, dude, you're a real estate investor, you know? I mean, like, that's real shit, you know? So people will do that, right? They will genuinely buy the property. Even if they know long-term I'm going to rent this out, I'm buying it to live in it right now. Like, you can come knock on my door and you will find me in this house. And I do think it's a valid strategy, and you know, it's pretty clever, and it's a way to do it without a lot of cash output. Here's some considerations. Don't spread yourself too thin. You know, I really can't go down the rabbit hole of this you know, it wasn't a client, it was just someone that we were talking to, and in theory would have been a client, but eventually we kind of said, hey, look, we're going to move on from this. This is not, it's not a good scenario for you. I don't feel good about doing this deal with you, and we're going to kind of wash our hands and move on from it. One is, don't spread yourself too thin, and this was kind of the reality of, you know, that situation that we were dealing with. So just keep in mind, right, if you placed a small down payment on the property, and now hypothetically you're renting it out a year, 2 years later, whatever it is, right? So you put down 3%, and now 18 months later you're renting it out. Well, here's one giant consideration. Because you did not put down 20%, you're basically financing the entire cost of the house. So instead of having a mortgage payment that's roughly 20% lower, where there's some upside cash flow wise in renting it out, it's like, dude, you very likely are just not going to have any margin there, because it's like, dude, you only got like 3% of equity in this house. So your payment's basically financing the full thing. You might even have a higher interest rate at that point because you didn't put much down, right? So it's like you might have a higher interest rate, more percentage of the property that you're financing, and it's like, is there any actual cash flow to be made on this if you rent it out? So you spread yourself really thin, right? You wind up with like a, whatever, $1,400 a month payment, and you're renting it out for like $1,450 to $1,500 hypothetically. And it's just like, bro, like, I mean, what do you got? 50, $100 upside a month? I mean, that's nothing. Like, that's nothing. I mean, for me, I'm like, dude, I'm not touching that. The margin's too damn tight. What if the rental market takes a slight hit? What if it takes a slight hit, right? And now instead of getting $1,450, now you're getting $1,350, and you're like, fuck, now I'm eating $50 a month. You probably could, but what if you can't? What if you can't, you know? And so here's the other scenario. What if X, Y, Z, you know, also think about this, right? If you didn't put much down, right? You know, I mean, what happens if you have a couple months where someone's not in the place, right? Because, hey, someone moves out, and now I got to spend 2-3 weeks getting it prepped to be able to re-rent it out. And then it takes me, I don't know, hypothetically a month to rent it out. So shit, I had 2 mortgage payments while I didn't have a renter in there. Because it's not, and I was making $50 to $100 a month on the rental. So it's like, shit, for the last 12 months, I made literally $1,200 on this thing. And I just went 2 months without getting paid on it. So it's like, shit, I just owed $3,000, and I only even made $1,200 to start with this year. You see what I mean? It's like you get in the hole really, really quick. So it's like, can you float a potential gap, a vacancy, right? Can you float that? Another consideration, spreading yourself too thin. What happens if you have to sell it? What happens if you get in and you're like, hey man, I'm a year into owning this thing, and I gotta sell it, you know, like it's not cash flowing, it's just not working, it's way more work than I wanted. And you're like, okay, cool, gotta sell it. Okay, how much equity you got? 3%. Right? Okay, so you own 3% of this house. Well, shit, you can't even pay the commissions, dude. I mean, for real, right? Let's be honest. I mean, the most sort of traditional commission structure that you would see is that the seller is paying the commission. Okay, you're selling your rental property now. You have 3% equity in it. In many, many cases, you're paying 3% to the buyer's agent, 3% to the seller's agent. Well, that's 6%. You only even had 3% to give, right? And closing costs and like, what if they're asking for repairs and stuff when you sell it? Like, you see what I mean? Because you know what that's called? 2008. That's called, oh, I'm underwater on my house. I can't sell my house and walk away with any money. AKA, I'm upside down. AKA, I'm short sell or foreclosure. Cool. Mr. Real Estate Investor, have fun being a real estate investor when you've got a foreclosure that you just had. You're out, dude. You're out of the game. So it's like, you got to think about this stuff. You know, I hate to see people try to spread themselves too thin. It's just not a good strategy. Factor in other things like, hey, look, are you going to be getting a property manager? Because again, if you have a thin margin on your monthly cash flow, can you even afford a property manager? And if the answer is no, do you know how to be a property manager? You see what I'm saying? Like, okay, they're roughly 10% a month. Do you have 10% that you can give a property manager? If not, you're doing it yourself. Do you have any like know-how in terms of how to do that? Cash for repairs, you want to have some of that stuff factored in, any other expenses that might pop up. But point being, guys, hey, look, I really recommend, if you guys want to get into doing the investment game, don't cut your margins super, super close, like, because that is how you live in a permanent state of stress. If you have 20% that you're throwing down on the property and you need to sell it 18 months later, you know what? The market's not going to tank by 20%. Knock on, well, there's no wood around here. Knock on wood, your head would do just fine. So like, hey, you can probably sell it and cool. You still walk away with some cash, lick your wounds, move on to the next project, right? So stuff to think about, guys. I hate to see people just try to do it before. It's like, you shouldn't have to try this hard. Like you need more money. Like you need more money in order to do this, right? And that's kind of where we got to this week. So a little bit of a bummer. We had to be a little bit of the bad cop. Specifically, Heidi had to be the bad cop. But, you know, you guys kind of get the point. So anyway, guys, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to move on. I feel like this video is way too long. Nice to see you all. If you need real estate help, let us know. This kind of stuff that we're talking about on this show, this is how we talk to our clients. So like, for real, like I joke around, have fun, but we will shoot you straight. Like we will give you real advice, even if that advice means that you get fired by us or we don't even take you on in the first place. Because it's like, if you're set up from a position of failure to begin with, I don't want to touch it. It's not worth the time and the headache, right? So if you need help, let us know. We operate in a bunch of different cities, states, all that kind of good stuff. Website's always linked below. And that said, I guess me and this dog, we're going to go hang out. See you, everyone.